to the Friday Five here on the Agent Survival Guide podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel, and this is our weekly list of 5 things you should know about. Today is Friday, August 14th. There are no updates on ACA certification at this time, but we are keeping an eye on the state exchanges. When they open, we will make sure to mention that here. On the Medicare Advantage and Part D side of things, here at Ritter Insurance Marketing, the FMO that powers this podcast, we are keeping track of the carriers that we work with and when their certifications become available. Last week, we had 13 carrier certifications open up, and we have 7 more that we are potentially tracking to open up this week. In our episode notes, we will have the link to the post on the Ritter blog that we recommend bookmarking. Our team is updating that post on a weekly basis. And we also have the link to the certification center within Ritter Docs. That's another place where you can find information about which certifications are live and the most updated information on what's coming soon. And then, of course, because that's all within Ritter Docs, you can easily navigate to other carrier information in there, like links to requirements and portals. Just a quick note that in order to access Ritter Docs, you must be registered with our website, ritterim.com. Pretty easy to complete that registration. We have the link available in the notes of every episode of our show. Just answer a couple quick questions, including your NPN, and then you will be good to go. Sticking with the ACA here for a minute, last week, CMS published their FAQ on the eligibility changes coming to ACA enrollment for coverage year 2027. ACA enrollment applications will fall into one of 2 buckets, either low-risk or high-risk applications. And both types of applications will require a form of consumer authorization prior to an agent or broker authorizing the application for enrollment. High-risk applications will be required to run through identification verification. Low-risk applications will require what CMS is calling a, quote, lightweight mechanism, such as a one-time passcode or a one-time confirmation link, end quote. The factors that make an ACA enrollment high risk include apps from a new consumer, apps from consumers seeking coverage in a different state, apps with an active enrollment that is not standalone dental with a premium of $30 or less per month after advanced premium tax credits, so getting pretty specific there. And then apps that come from a different or new agent or broker. And then if an application does not meet any of those things I just mentioned, it will be considered low risk. In the CMS memo, there are a few examples to help distinguish between the two, as well as answers to even more questions. Now, with this information being so new, I wanted to get out a very high-level overview so we can wrap our heads around this part, and we will have more information to follow. But for now, I definitely recommend starting out by reading through the memo. Next week, I have an interview scheduled to talk about the changes coming as a result of these new EDE requirements, as well as the other changes coming to the industry more broadly. Very much looking forward to that conversation. So if you have questions around these new requirements, please send them our way. We do try to incorporate information like this into our presentations and webinars as soon as we can. So if that's something you'd like to hear more about, please send in your questions to asgpodcast@ritterim.com. Super short mention here, in case you haven't heard, Mark Zuckerberg wrote a 6,500-word manifesto on artificial intelligence. Which makes sense because his company, Meta, is a very large part of the tech world that is trying to make the case for not just AI adoption, but why Meta does what it does. Like I said, super short mention. We will have the link in the notes so you can read through it for yourself. Another short mention here, just in case you missed it. CMS announced at the tail end of July that Xeljanz and Xeljanz XR will be removed from the Medicare drug price negotiation program as a selected drug beginning on January 1st, 2029. Xeljanz was tapped as a selected drug for the 2028 Medicare coverage year. In the time since that determination was made and now, a generic version of the drug is, quote, being bona fide marketed pursuant to such approval, end quote. This means that for coverage year 2028, no maximum fair price will apply to Xeljanz or Xeljanz XR, and the drug will be removed from the list for coverage year 2029. Last week, KFF updated their interactive resource on the facts of Medicare spending. We've talked about the Medicare Trust Fund here on the show before. That's what helps cover the cost of Medicare Part A for most people who are eligible for Medicare. There's a lot of information in one place in this KFF report. I believe I've called this a statistic extravaganza when referring to it in the past. I'd like to pull out a few data points that I found interesting as I scrolled through the report, which we will be linking to in our episode notes. So first things first, by the year 2060, 1 in 4 adults in the United States will be 65 or older, myself included. We keep getting closer to 2031, when the next generation will start to age into retirement, Generation X. And then right on the heels of Generation X, we have millennials, currently the largest generation of adults in the United States. But not by that much. Gen Z is right on our tails, but they are a slightly smaller cohort. All that to say that in 2020, there were 63 million people enrolled in Medicare in the United States. KFF has that number projected at 91 million by 2060. And then getting into spending trends, KFF takes a look at the rising cost of Medicare in this study. Back in 2000, total Medicare spending was $196 billion. The total amount spent on Medicare in 2025 came in at $988 billion. Back in 2000, Medicare spending per beneficiary came in at almost $6,000 per beneficiary. In 2025, that cost increased to almost $19,000 per beneficiary. Other highlights in the report include Medicare spending by age, a breakdown of spending on Parts A, B, and D in 2015 compared to 2025, with projections for 2035. And then they also take those same timeframes and compare between original Medicare and Medicare Advantage. KFF plots out trust fund solvency through 2034, as well as a nice chart documenting the growth in out-of-pocket spending. Like I said, it is an extravaganza, and the tables can be downloaded and added to your presentations. I also love the fact that KFF is great about citing their sources, and they tend to revisit a lot of the same studies over the years. So we get these very satisfying glimpses of, in this case, the Medicare program and how cost has evolved over time. Now for this week's shoutouts. Arthur Barlow, CEO and president of Compass Insurance Advisors and co-founder of the ACA Health Summit. We will be talking to him next week and bringing that conversation to the feed as soon as we can. Shout out to him for the heads up on the CMS memo that headlined this week's episode. And then shout out to, once again, our resident ACA guru, Danica, for answering my questions as I was trying to wrap my brain around how to present the info here in the most easy to understand way possible. And then last but not least, shout out to Disney Plus for reviving the Camp Rock franchise for our family movie night tonight. Thanks so much for listening to this week's Friday 5 episode. Don't forget to send in your questions to asgpodcast@ritterim.com. And send in your shout-outs too. Birthdays, anniversaries, career milestones. We would love to shout it out here on the show. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe out there. And we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script proofing by Emma Hazard. Podcast designed by Urban Rivera. Follow along with our show to stay updated on industry news, online trends, interviews, and more.